Well, good afternoon, Bill, and welcome to a sunny day down here in Ocean Grove.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. It is. It's a beautiful day, and I'm looking out your window at the ocean. I think next stop is Antarctica, isn't it? As I look out there.
There's probably Tassie in the way.
And it's flat calm, but it's good to see some warmer weather. And, yeah, we've had another busy week, haven't we?
We have, and obviously horrific news with what's going on in the Middle East. I just don't know what the answer is there, but it all just adds to a very chaotic world out there at the moment.
Yes, it is, and we wonder what the hell our kids are going to get into, but our parents probably thought the same thing about us.
Correct.
And the wheel is turning.
So, Bill, we've got an interesting guest on the line today, ringing in from Byron Bay. So, Bill, tell us who we're going to chat to.
Well, first of all, you know we always have interesting guests.
Right. This is true. This is not an uninteresting guest.
All right. Today we're talking to Kody Thompson. And I have been introduced to Kody by his dad, who is somebody I know well and who I trust, and we bounce ideas off each other quite often. And he suggested that I should be talking to Kody because he really has a great story to tell. So I'm looking forward to this interview, Mark.
So welcome, Kody.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Kody, where did life begin? Where was primary school?
Primary school, I grew up in Maryborough, Victoria. I was born in Bendigo, and my parents moved to Maryborough. I grew up in a small school there called 404, and I actually it's been a long time since I've seen it, but probably maybe I'm 34 now. Maybe about 10 years ago, I was driving through Maryborough, so I stopped past the school, and it's actually much smaller than I remember. It's funny how when you're a kid, the play equipment and everything just seemed, mountainous, and now, when you're a bit older, you go back and you realize how small everything was. But I really enjoyed growing up there in Maryborough.
And it's interesting talking about that because I went to school, boarding school in Plymouth in the UK, and
right.
I was there about 10, 15 years ago and thought, I must go and see the old school. And it's a housing estate. and it really shattered me. I felt like I was an orphan. Anyway, so after primary school, where to? What was your movements?
I ended up back in Bendigo, and I did my high school in Bendigo at Flora Hill Secondary College, and then to Bendigo Senior High School there. And then when I finished school, I went into doing youth work. So I was running volunteer leadership programs and stuff like that in the high school. Unfortunately, I had a number of friends that committed suicide when I was going through school, and so when I finished school, I wanted to go back and just try to help young people to make, not make those decisions and to kind of find hope and direction for their life and not kind of go in that direction. So I started doing sort of volunteer work in the schools, and then a local church that I'd become a part of saw what I was doing, and they started funding me, and I became the youth pastor of that church. So I finished university while I was working as a youth pastor in Bendigo, and then I ended up becoming the national youth director for the Apostolic Church Australia, which has about 120 churches in Australia, and I took on a position in Queensland, and because I was taking on that position, they didn't have a lot of money to pay me. I was making like 30 grand a year. You don't do it for the money. You kind of, doing it because you feel that it's something on your life to do. But I started freelancing as a graphic designer to pay the bills. And that was the start of my business journey. I never intended to really start a business. It was just so that I could put food on the table while my wife and I were, doing this youth work stuff. And then the business just took off. That was about 9 years ago.
What did you do at uni, Kody, then? What pushed you into the university? What was you doing?
I did university just because it was what you did at the time. It was kind of like everybody was saying you should do uni. I did graphic design at university, but to be honest, I just went and did enough to get my degree. I already had natural talent as a graphic designer, and really when it comes to design, a lot of it is sort of natural giftings and just doing reps, like just getting in front of your design tool or behind the camera and just just doing stuff. That's how you get better. Going to uni was sort of, I didn't really learn a lot, to be honest. I just kind of went through the program, got my piece of paper, and, I learned most of the stuff that I learned just from working with clients.
So, Kody, at high school, what sort of kid were you in high school? Did you stand out for any reason? Remembering I got a piece of paper in front of me here from your father.
You know my dad. Look, I was always well liked by the teachers, but they also knew I was a bit of a mischievous kid. Like in year 10, I remember we had this joke. A friend of mine, we would steal all the clocks out of the classroom. So like we'd climb in the windows at lunchtime, and we'd take the clocks off the wall and we'd hide them in a box under one of the portables. And over the course of the year, we stole like 50 clocks. And it got to a point where the principal got up at a assembly and was saying, "This has got to stop. Whoever's stealing these clocks, it's not funny." And at the end of year 10, we wrapped the box up in Christmas wrapper and we left it at the admin room, and we gave them their 50 clocks back. But so there was stuff like that where the principal at the time, he really liked me, and I'm grateful for him because he tried to keep me on the straight and center, but he had a sense of humor. So he thought the stuff that I did was, he'd slap me over the wrist, but he'd have a laugh at the same time.
In other words, you were the school court jester, were you?
I did enjoy being the center of attention on occasion, sure. I have to admit.
Well, listen, from what we know of you now, that you have a unbelievable business based in the Philippines, and and I understand my info here tells me that it really started what you did, that graphic design at La Trobe Uni, but you actually were giving a talk at a local Chamber of Commerce as a new member. You were asked to give a talk, and you spoke as being a graphic designer and as a youth pastor. And that was a tipping point. And Mark and I love talking about tipping points and sliding doors. So what was the reference there that talk at Rotary actually led you to getting some work, and from then on you just went ahead?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few moments like that where, you just meet somebody who opens the doors for you. Probably the most significant occasion like that was Bendigo Marketplace, which is a large shopping centre, and I'm forever grateful for Danielle Downs, who was the marketing manager there at the time, but just the whole Bendigo Marketplace organisation. I heard on the grapevine that they were unhappy with their current designer, and I'd only just finished uni. I was a nobody in the business space. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't have hardly any clients. I hadn't done anything significant, worked with any significant clients, but I just thought I would ring, this phone number for Bendigo Marketplace and just see if they would give me any work. And I called the number, and it just by, divine intervention or whatever you would want to call it, I ended up getting on the phone straight through to Danielle, the marketing manager. Now I've called them, hundreds of times after that, and always you get a receptionist. And if I'd ever called and got a receptionist, I probably would have got shut down before I even got to talk to anybody that could actually give me any work. But for some reason that day, the receptionists weren't there, and Danielle picked up the phone, and I said to her who I was and that I was looking for some design work, and would it be okay if I sent you my portfolio? And she gave me her email address. I sent through my portfolio. 5 minutes later, she called me back and asked me to do my first project with them. And they became a huge client for me. I was probably doing maybe $50,000 or $60,000 a year worth of design work just for that one client. I ended up building my first significant website for them. I rebuilt the Bendigo Marketplace website, which was the biggest project. I think that was a $20,000 project, something of that nature, which was the biggest project that I'd done at the time. And as soon as I had them as a client, I was in the game, because people recognized the brands, and it gave me some credibility that I didn't have. And so I'm so grateful for that phone call and for her for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's the opportunities that come across that you can't plan, of course. But on my little cheat sheet here, it also says here you're a great drawer, but it also says you're a drummer in a youth band. Tell us about your musical experience.
Yeah, I started playing the drums when I was 12, and my dad, I got quite good at it, and I ended up playing in this band. These guys in school were much older than me. I don't remember how old they were at the time, maybe 16 or 17, and I was like 13. And they started playing cover songs in pubs and things like that. And so my dad was dragging me along to these, he would make jokes and say they were, cockroach infested, hotels and stuff like that. And I'm a 13-year-old kid sitting behind the drums playing, Cold Chisel songs, for 40-year-olds dancing on the dance floor. So it was interesting, time. I loved playing music, writing music, recording albums and stuff like that. So I did a bit of that while I was growing up as well.
Do you still play music? You still involved?
I still play a little bit, mainly just at church when they need me. But I've got 3 kids now, so you just finding the time to to have all the hobbies. You kind of got to pick and choose where you prioritize your time. So drums hasn't been a priority for me, for the last sort of 5 years or so.
So moving from Bendigo to Queensland, do you go to the Gold Coast or Brisbane? Where did you?
Yeah, went to the Gold Coast, and and that's really when the business took off. Like I said, I was making $30K a year as a youth pastor, and so when I started graphic design, I had that sliding door moment with Bendigo Marketplace. I became their primary designer. I was doing all their marketing material. In my first year of running that business, I did 115, 120
wow.
grand, something like that. And for me, I thought I was rich, going from 30 grand a year, and it was an interesting transition period though, because to be honest, I felt bad about what I was doing initially, because I went to Queensland to do this youth work stuff. And then the more that my business started to take off, the less time I had for the youth programs that I was running, and the more that the business was demanding, my time. But I felt that, as the business grew, I realized that I was able to have, and not the same impact, but a different impact through my business. And so thankfully, the pastor that I was working with, was very supportive of what I was doing with my business. And the rest is history. Basically, every year we doubled the company. It went from 120 grand to 250 the next year, 500 the year after that. So we basically doubled every year for about, 5 years. Growth slowed a little bit after that. Gets a little bit more challenging to scale the business when you start hiring. We got up to about 60 or 70 staff. In fact, 2 months ago was our 9-year anniversary for the web development company. And so I was able to build that up to about $3 million revenue a year. And we just had our 9-year anniversary. We support about 900 clients a month with that web development company.
And are you still hands-on with it?
Yeah, I'm less hands-on. Actually, only a few months ago, I sold the majority of my ownership in that company to a US business.
Yep. So
they have come in to help scale. They basically want to take my model and scale it into the US market, which I think is a really smart move. I had the opportunity. A friend of mine, his company was the one that bought it. They offered me a great price for my sort of stake, and so I'm still part of the ownership group at the moment. But it's allowed me to kind of be less hands-on in that business and focus my attention on the new venture that I have, which is called WRKPOD.
So before we get into WRKPOD, when you were growing your business, what helped you do that? We talk to lots of businesses about how they grow and what helps them, and lots of businesses talk about having a mentor or a coach or whatever. Did you have anyone in that space that helped you?
Yeah, my business partner, Dale, was my business coach. Dale Beaumont, he runs a business program called Business Blueprint. He was my business coach originally, and then we developed a close friendship. I was building lots of websites for his clients, to the tune of like 100, 150 websites a year I was doing through his clients. And so he sort of said, hey, we should, partner, in a more, strongly. So he offered to sort of buy into my business. So he came on as an investor and business partner, and we kept growing the business together. So about halfway through that 9-year journey, Dale joined as an investor. So that certainly helped me to scale. And then I just think people, the relationships that you have, with your employees, I'm just so grateful for the people that I've met that have helped to, move the business forward. Yeah. We've got some amazing staff that have joined, and without their sort of ideas and, impact, the business wouldn't be where it is today. So
well, that fits, Kody, that fits because one of our favourite expressions is that you can't be a success working on your own.
No.
And that's been proven many times. Now, the interesting thing, you mentioned a US company invested in it, but I also picked up that you've got a bit of an American accent. And is that so? And I also know that you've started this unbelievable business in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And I've had dealings with the Filipino community before, and they all talk with American accents.
Yeah.
Because that's the schooling and the way they speak English over there. So how did you leapfrog from what you were doing in Australia to the Philippines?
So when I was growing Lightning Sites, the web development company, a lot of people started to then, I guess, see the success that I was having. People that maybe had started in similar, I guess, positions to me. My business was growing so rapidly. People started asking, for like, how was I doing it? Basically, how are you growing the business so quickly? And I was hiring a lot of staff in the Philippines, and I ended up so it started by building my own company there. I knew I wanted to scale my back office team in the Philippines because the cost of living in the Philippines is just so much lower. It's like, probably like a sixth or a seventh of the price of what it costs to live here in Australia. And so, they're well-educated people, speak great English in a similar time zone to us, but just because of the nature of the market there, they don't have to earn as much. And so the cost of salaries is like a sixth of the price. And so I was hiring a lot of web development talent there and also a lot of customer service talent there. And instead of like working with agencies that were over there, I just hated the culture, like the culture of the agencies that are available to outsource, for companies to outsource their work to. They don't treat their staff very well. They tend to pay them really poorly. The relationship is just weird because you're paying a company and then the company is paying the Filipino. So there's this weird relationship where they work for you, but you're not their boss. And so when I went over there, I saw the way that this was being done, and I just saw it as a huge risk to my business. I was like, I don't want, 10, 15, 20 of my staff employed by another agency. What happens if that agency decides to pull my account? Or what happens if that agency decides that they want my staff on another account or something like that? And so when I went over there, I was like, I'm going to have to do this myself. So I ended up, getting legal advice, and I set up my own company in the Philippines. I rented my own building, and then I started building my team. So over that 9-year period, I scaled that business to about 70 something staff with the web development company. And about 2 years back, I decided that I had space in a building. We basically outgrew the facility that we're in. And then we took over a new facility that had 120 desks. And so I had 50 or 60 desks free. And so all those people that had been asking me for help over those years, I just started calling him and saying, hey, I've got these spare desks. Do you want me to hire some staff for you? My sort of theory was, well, if I can rent these desks out, I'll get my building for free. And so then I'll have free rent and free, internet for my own staff if I can just rent these 50 desks out. And so that was how WRKPOD started. Within a few months, I filled all those desks, and then I realized that there was a huge need in the market for this type of thing where I could help people to hire the staff directly and not be in a position where someone else was controlling their most important asset, their people. And so that's how WRKPOD started. We filled those 50 desks, and then everyone wanted to grow their team. So I went out and we fitted out a facility for 350 desks, and then we filled that in 12 months. And then we We released about another 350 desks last year. We filled those last year. So in 2 years, we've hired about 700 staff for different organisations.
All right, Kody, just on that, and I can tell that, part of your culture or your way of leadership is looking after your staff. And I've been watching what's on your website and what you've set up in the Philippines. How do you maintain your values, or how do you transfer that to your employees? And how do you maintain a culture that fits all the things that you said you didn't like that other businesses were doing?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with just spending time with your staff and trying to be present with your staff and being available and making sure that your personal values are embedded in the organization. And it starts by living those values out yourself. Like, you can't say one thing and then do another thing. You have to embody the culture that you want to have. And for me, it's always been like, get my hands down in the dirt and do the work. For me, like when it was web development, business, I'd be in there finishing websites with my staff. If there was an order that was delayed and we needed to get the order out, then I'm on the production floor with the staff getting the website finished, and so for me, it's always been like just getting in the dirt and doing the work. Now I guess that was one of the challenges I had scaling Lightning sites a little bit. And I think that's, where I hit a bit of a ceiling with that particular business, because I was so involved in the delivery of the products and services. We could scale it to a point, but, we really needed, this US company to come in to take it to the next level because my natural skill set was web development. It was so easy for me to get back into, doing the day-to-day work with the team, but it certainly did help in building and establishing the type of culture that I wanted. So I think that's the main thing. The other part of it is just documenting our cultures. Everybody knows what our company cultures are. We have them well documented. We talk about them all the time. They're in our, onboarding process for new staff. And then I think one of the key things is particularly your HR manager, like our HR manager, Cybelle, who recruits our talent. She's just amazing. And she knows how to pick people that are going to fit our culture. Without her, I think life would have been much more difficult because she's just been such a great gatekeeper at making sure that the talent that we're bringing in is the right, has the right type of character and culture that's going to slot into our business.
So from a cultural point of view, what sort of cultural differences have you come across between Australia and the Philippines? Is there anything that sort of stands out?
Probably one of the things that would stand out the most would just be that Filipinos have a tendency to really want to impress, and they want to save face at all costs. So if there's a situation where you've asked them to do something, let's say you give them an instruction, oftentimes an Australian will say something like, you need to do A, B, C, D. Do you understand? And we finish by saying, do you understand? And what that does is it puts the onus on them, like, did you understand what I told you to do? And so a Filipino will say yes, even if they don't understand, because they want to save face. They don't want to come across as looking silly. And so what can happen in situations like that is that they'll go away and try to figure it out, which can lead to them, making a mistake that would be avoidable. So one of the things that I've kind of encouraged Aussie business owners to do would be to flip the way that they talk to a Filipino would be more like, you need to do A, B, and C, and D. Have I explained what needs to be done well? So instead of putting the onus on them, You're putting the onus back on yourself. Have I explained how we want this to be done well? And then they can say, no, you haven't explained this very well. So putting myself at the place where I'm the one who is up for being judged on the way I've explained something, rather than putting the onus back on them. That's just one example of
very good. And what sort of services at the end you're offering? What are all your employees doing? What sort of things can businesses expect out of it? Is it all web design, or are you offering other services?
No, so for WRKPOD, we basically build teams for all different types of organizations. Like, for example, we've built a team of 8 town planners for a town planning firm here in Australia. So the town planners are very hard to find in Australia right now. They're very in demand. And so we found 8 lawyers that were just finishing law school, and they were taught New South Wales property, property legislation, and they're now working as town planners. So we hired 8 of them.
That's fantastic.
For a particular organisation. We built a team of for a taxi dispatch company. They have all their phones ran there. We have an aged care centre that has a call centre of 20 staff that we built for them. We have an architect firm that's got, CAD drawers and building designers. We've got a podcast editing company that has, 5 or 6 audio engineers and videographers that are cutting, pieces of content from the video podcasts. So there's basically any type of repeatable work can be outsourced to the Philippines.
Kody,
as long as
that's interesting.
Yeah.
We've got our outsourced podcast engineer, and I'm looking at him. It's my fellow podcaster.
Yeah, exactly. So all that type of work, there's heaps of talent over there. As long as the work is can be systemized, simple scales. So if you can look at your business and simplify it, then you can scale it more effectively. And if you can simplify it, then usually there's a whole bunch of work that is being done in there that could be done overseas, and that allows you to elevate your local staff, to do more important tasks in your business rather than having them, doing low value tasks. You can elevate your Aussie staff to be doing more important things, and that allows everybody to win,
I also read something I picked up, I don't know where I got it, that you were described as the Google of Dumquet, is it?
Dumageddon.
Dumageddon. I nearly got it right. And it went on to say, because within your organisation, you have set it up and there's basketball, a soccer field, pickleball, yoga, a cafeteria, a gym, a theatre, a games room, a medical something or other, can't read my own writing, and a lactation room.
Yeah.
Is that all part of the culture and what makes it all gel?
Yeah, we just want to, when we hire staff for our clients, we want them to love to come to work. We don't want our clients to be put in a situation where people encouraging them to let them work from home, or they're not enjoying the environment. Like if they enjoy the environment, they're going to be more productive. They're more likely to stay with our clients longer. That's really important. We try to create an amazing culture in our workplaces. And so that facility you're talking about is WRKPOD Campus, one of our facilities that we recently took over last year. It was like an old, I guess the best way to explain it was like a university campus, which is why we've called it WRKPOD Campus. And it's got, like you said, a big basketball court, which we resurfaced, and it's got a soccer field and, cinema and all that type of stuff. And everything is free for the staff that are working there. So we have, movie nights, and we have basketball. A basketball tournament uses our courts. They can play basketball at lunchtime. Yeah, we just try to create. We want it to be, like you said, the Google of Dumageddon. We want it to be a place where people just love coming to work.
So what strikes me is you started your life wanting to be a youth pastor and look after people, and you've sort of come in a full circuit because you're in a business, but your business is all about employing and looking after people.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. I felt bad about it at the time when I was first, when the business was first taking off. I felt like guilty that I should be, pursuing the volunteer stuff that I was doing. And then I came to realize that there was opportunity for me to have a greater impact.
Yep.
I just didn't really realize it at the time. As I started to grow my business and I started to employ people in the Philippines, I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I could talk about in terms of the charity work we do. We have a school in the Philippines that we support over 250 students. So there's opportunity that I never would have had. Today there's 700 Filipinos that we helped employ in the last 2 years.
That's fantastic.
And so our goal is to actually create 10,000 jobs in the next 5 years.
Wow.
And the government over there, they say that one full-time employee in the Philippines actually serves 20 Filipinos. That's how the government basically lifts 20 out of poverty. And so if we can create 10,000 jobs, then we're actually impacting 200,000, Filipinos. And then after we hit that 10,000 goal, then we're hoping that we can, get up to that, 50,000 mark, and then we can help over 1 million Filipinos, through the staff that we've employed. The flow-on effect of that impacting lives in the Philippines could, be basically
That's
transform
brilliant.
whole communities. Yeah.
So how do people find you?
They can find us at workpod.com, WRKPOD. So it's work without the O, WRKPOD.com. And they can find out all about us. There's videos and downloads and things like that they can look at. There's heaps of video content, FAQ videos on the website. So if they want to kind of get a bit more of a feel for what we do, there's heaps of information on the website that they can check out.
That's fantastic, Kody. So who would have thought a boy from Maryborough is running a massive business doing good in the Philippines? I think it's fantastic.
Or Mark, a prankster from Bendigo,
or a prankster from Bendigo.
is now making a difference in the world. And in a world of misery at the moment, unfortunately, listening to your story and listening to what you're doing, I've got to congratulate you, and I think it's a fantastic job you're doing. And
thank you.
If there's any way we can ever help you do anything, I don't know how we could, but just keep in touch with us.
Yep,
well, it's been even just having a chat with you guys is a real, it's very encouraging to be encouraged, by other people. And that, when you're in the business every day, you just, all I see is all the things I want to fix. And, so to have a chat and, for people to be inspired by, what we're doing is humbling and definitely a big encouragement. So even just having a chat with you guys is, I'm grateful for that.
No, it's our pleasure, and I've been looking forward to this.
So thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.